Welcome to Day Zero Update for July 12th, 2026. I'm your host, Chris Salogi.
I'm Brandon Perkins.
And I'm Janra Victorio.
And yeah, we've got a full crew again, just in
Yep.
time for, let's say, a full week of mostly bad news.
Yeah.
No real way of getting around it. There's very few stories here that are positive in any way. We do have some. They'll be sprinkled in a little bit. But before we get to all of that stuff, we'll get to what we've been playing, and I'll kick it off here. My review is out now for College Football 27. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I feel like probably the most disappointed I've been in a sports game in a while. At least for a long while. I expected a lot out of this game, considering the last two games since its revival were both very good, getting better, and seemed like they kind of got what they understood what they needed to do to be better for the future, and they put out a game that is extremely buggy and kind of frustrating to play a lot of the time. I went into a lot of the bugs that were in there, things like crashing. That seems like it was fixed by a random update on Tuesday, though they never put any like update notes as far as I know. So what they did, nobody seems to know. That seems to have been mostly fixed. I had problems in Road to Glory with my quarterback just after hiking the ball, just not being able to really move more than like very slight amounts, which would cause me a lot of sacks. I think in my first season in Road to Glory, I led the country in sacks taken because of a lot of that kind of stuff. What else? There was a lot of weird issues, like in the high school mode. This year they improved that in terms of the challenges you would take on for each game, where they all mostly worked. Last year's game had some where it's like, do these obscure controls that we're not going to tell you how to do. And so like a lot of them felt like they were just really buggy and poorly designed. Here they're a lot more easier to do, but had some weird issues like they just substituted me out for one of the challenges, so it failed as a result, and that seemed like a really weird thing to happen. The other thing is you cannot retry those challenges if it's the last one for the game. Like you might have to pause in the middle of the drive before it finishes, but if you let it finish, you cannot retry it, even if you have more retries to use. There's like weird issues like that. There's also just a lot of sloppy bugs. Like I reached the point of being a 5-star recruit, but it would sometimes still call me a 4-star recruit in commentary and whatnot. There's a lot of like poor commentary where I was facing the FCS team that is just a generic substitute for the second tier of schools that play college football that occasionally play the top tier. They're just a really poorly rated team, and they would often act like they were one of the best defenses in the country and have real poor control over what it's saying about teams at times. Or I might be destroying a team and then have a bad drive or two, and they start talking up the other team like they're a great team and all that kind of stuff. A lot of poor commentary, and not to mention the use of AI in various parts of the game that just also gives it bad vibes. And if I did not get a review code, I may not have actually bought the game at all. Otherwise, but yeah, a lot of stuff like that. A lot of UI bugs where you would not be able to tell the difference between when it's comparing two teams' different stats. But it would go to like yards allowed, and it would pick the higher number is better, even though you want to allow less yards. Various things like that. And yeah, Dynasty has issues of its own. Recruiting seems pretty poor. I was letting it auto recruit for me for a bit, and I realized it was mainly focusing on players that had zero interest in my team, which I picked one of the worst teams in the country, Kent State, because I wanted to tryouts, improving with a better, making a bad team better with that kind of stuff. And that was kind of one of the things I noticed pretty quickly. And so I would just keep getting updates every week of like, oh, this team, this player finalized their top 5. You're not in it, of course. I would have to replace those with people that uh, had us actually ranked on their top 10 of interested teams, and usually try to get top 1 or 2 and pick players who have interested things that they would drop teams for, like distance from home, play style, all that kind of stuff, and try to pick ones that are better rated for that kind of stuff. And so that got a little bit better there. I ended up just having to take control of it at a certain point. I got something they're working on improving, but the big issue, we'll talk about that a little bit later, has been the microtransactions that people are upset about. And if I did not see any of this outrage over it, I would not have known where it would be in Road to Glory, because that mode, essentially where you would find it is if you tried to spend more points to upgrade your player than you actually had. It would offer you to be able to use the paid points that come with like the deluxe edition and all that for the ultimate team mode, which is not a thing I would ever think of trying to do. In Dynasty mode, you can buy coach points to upgrade your coaches' stats, and they get various perks and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's just been a boring part of those games, the Madden games and such. When they've been doing that stuff, it's all usually minor stat boosts on things, and it's like, this is just more garbage to upgrade just to occupy your time and make you feel like you're getting more out of it at a certain point. And like, they're obviously taking cues from NBA 2K with some of this upgrade stuff, because the Road to Glory stat upgrade stuff seems almost identical to what NBA 2K has done with a lot of their stuff. Even with the hard limits on how far these stats can go, be upgraded to, and unless you hit these cap breaker points that you can spend, which happens when you break records and win bowl games and all that kind of stuff. So you can only get, limited amount of opportunities for that stuff in the game. So that's kind of the weird thing, where it's like, none of this seems appealing unless you're just that kind of player. And for Dynasty mode, which you can play with, up to 32 people online, and that kind of thing, you could have somebody that wants to spend way too much money to fully upgrade their coach for the whatever benefits that gets you. But I imagine anybody who's trying to run a more legit online dynasty would just kick that kind of player out for trying to game the system. So yeah, there's a lot of weird things going on with this game. There are some good things, like their dynamic weather, which is a really cool way of handling weather, where normally you just have it rain the entire game, or snow or whatever. But here, you can have games start with some rain, and then it stops for a while, then maybe picks back up again, to be a bit more realistic in that kind of fashion, and that can affect the way that your players play a little bit. It might be harder to get catch passes and do that kind of stuff when it's raining, which is a really nice touch on this kind of game. I like the look of the game a good bit. A lot of the tackling animation is pretty good, the way they've done their physics. Though it also leads to a lot of funny collision stuff when it bugs out. But that's just, I think that's kind of endemic to that kind of system they're trying to do there. Is occasionally it's just going to get weird and look funny. And yeah, they try to do a lot of weird things in like Road to Glory, where they often use camera segments where it's almost like you have like a little drone hanging above your character's head as you're like walking to the sidelines or at the beginning of the game, that kind of stuff. But your ability to skip some of that stuff is real tough. has like too many unskippable cutscenes, and they are too interested in trying to be cutesy with this. You have to hold the button down to maybe skip it, but that led to a lot of crashes before they updated the game. And there's some when you go to the sidelines after finishing a drive, whether good or bad, you'll just have to sit there and watch your player walk over to the sidelines before it actually skips. I had moments where I would not hold the button down long enough the first time, and it would just skip to the next play. Make me watch, a point after touchdown attempt or a kickoff or something before it actually skipped. And there's a lot of like unnecessary downtime. I feel like there should be options. I double checked to make sure because there's a lot of like accessibility options and whatnot. That there should be like a more light presentation option for this kind of game. Especially when I realized with Road to Glory, the wear and tear system, where as your players are sort of taking hits and all that kind of stuff, they wear down and occasionally get substituted out, that it was occasionally going nuts to the point of I started counting in a number of games and had some where the injury timeouts when it was when a player takes too much damage was happening like 13 or 14 times, which then stops the clock from being able to continue to run down, and that's like 20 to 30 seconds of wasted time that could have been drained off the clock. And so that's that's upwards of 7 minutes of in-game time that could have been wasted when you're trying to have the clock advance and all that, and that just ends up wasting a lot of your time. This is a game that doesn't really respect your time for a lot of this kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on here that needs to be addressed. And I think they said in the review guide there were a few things they were working on updates for, but it seems like they're not concerned about really updating things right now, but trying to get them ready for the beginning of the season, which is in August, the end of August. So you may end up having to play a game with more bugs than you'd like while you're waiting for them to actually fix various things here. They're expecting you to pay, $70+ for. I feel like right now it's probably not worth that. If you're going to buy it at all, in spite of the AI stuff, wait for discounts. They'll have it on sale by the time the season starts and all that. Don't give them full price money for it. You don't have to. So yeah, there's a lot of unfortunate stuff about it, but still enjoyed my time overall. Just it comes with a lot of caveats, unfortunately. So there's that. I did get a game from the Steam summer sale that happened, a game called Terratech Legion. This is a auto shooting survival game based on property that I think they've done some like a free to play thing for it. It's a regular game called Terratech. As like a sandbox game kind of thing with these like modular vehicles. And so they've just created, a Vampire Survivors like with that kind of idea. So you start off with a very basic vehicle that has, 4 wheels and a gun on it. And as you level up, you get these crates. You'll fight some enemies that drop crates every once in a while too that will give you new parts to add to your vehicle. And sometimes it might be more wheels to give you better speed or rocket boosters for the boosts, or more weapons you can put on the vehicle, or various things that'll bump up various stats. Got a pretty good hook to it. I've not beaten the first boss yet. It has sort of like 3 goals you want to accomplish, and I think I can do 2 of them with the one character you start with. The third one requires a different character, so I still have some work to do on that, but I put a couple hours into this and I've been enjoying it so far. Get a currency out of it to do the meta upgrades for I think each character, and so that has like skill tree stuff going on there. So I'm enjoying this so far. Got some fun stuff to it. It drains my Steam Deck's battery, and in the middle of a run, it just caused the Steam Deck to shut off entirely, and I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Even trying to, hold the button down to try to restart it was not working, so I just had to set it down for a little while and then tried it like 30 minutes later and it would turn on. So I lost whatever progress there that I made, so that's a bit disappointing. It's maybe a little too resource intensive at times, but that's been pretty good so far, so hopefully they bring out the consoles for more people to be able to enjoy. But I don't see anything in this game that would suggest it's not capable of handling that kind of stuff. But yeah, you do get some good runs where you can have like a monster vehicle with all these excess blocks on, because some weapons have like a full 360-degree range, so you might want to elevate that higher so that other weapons aren't getting in the way that don't have that kind of range and all that kind of stuff. So you got some real like Banjo Kazooie nuts and bolts kind of design stuff going on here, which is pretty neat. So yeah, that's a fun little game. I got it for I think it's $10 normally. I think I got it for about $7 during the sale. So that's been pretty fun to mess around with. And the last game I've been playing on my Super Station 1, Guardians Crusade. This is a JRPG that came out on the PS1 from Tamsoft that I looked up, and they made the Ballerina Toshinden games on the PS1.
Yeah.
Along with let's say a lot of the booby anime games that you've seen on consoles over the last like 10-15 years.
Yep.
Senran Kagura, was Onichan Bara,
Mm-hmm.
the Bikini Zombie stuff.
Yep.
A bunch of those kind of games. The Hyperdimension Neptunia games, they've been making a bunch of those.
Mm-hmm.
They worked on that Captain Tsubasa game.
Mm-hmm.
Melty Blood, the console ports of that. So they've worked on a bunch of stuff. Now they're mostly doing like anime games. But this was a JRPG they made as like their first, probably only like self-published game they tried to make in Japan. It was called Night and Baby. There because you control a character named Knight and you befriend a little creature called Baby that can kind of grow and evolve in different ways depending on how you treat it. So it's like a Tamagotchi kind of virtual pet kind of thing there that is a neat gimmick for this kind of game. And yeah, I got localized with the help of Activision because that's what they were doing back then. In the 90s on the PS1 was sort of finding games in Japan before they got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and other games that went real big, and they did not have to give a shit about anybody else's games for a while. But yeah, you kind of walk around the overworld and see monsters on there instead of having randomized battles. And they kind of, I think they're supposed to be like ghostly creatures, but they kind of look like worm floating around. The way that they kind of turn white when they're underpowered compared to your character. Where I'm at, I'm in the big dungeon trying to get Baby back because I was instructed by the mayor to take them to this cave that demons supposedly live in, and you drop them off and leave and go back home and kind of have this weird dream about an angel kind of telling you to go back and get the creature and take it to its mom at this God's Tower thing. So I'm in the process of going through this cave dungeon thing to get the baby back. I beat a boss that was this weird mushroom creature that was supposedly eating this race of rat monsters, eating their like storage, food storage stuff. And I beat it in like two hits because I had leveled up enough through all the stuff I've been doing, which is not too hard for any of that. But yeah, it's got some nice stuff going on here that kind of makes it stand out. But it's a game that did not really catch on in any way, unfortunately. But the PS1 version that's localized is a pretty good one of these. If you wanted something that isn't trying to just be, Final Fantasy VII or Dragon Quest or anything like that.
Mm.
This is doing something a bit different than that. Makes for a pretty solid JRPG. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been pretty much what I've been playing. So how about you, Brandon?
One thing I'm still playing, of course, is Splatoon 3. We're currently in the middle of another Splatfest that I think ends later on tonight. Um, the what are called the three-way matches went live yesterday, and I managed to do okay. Um, but again, there are people on that game that are much better players than me, so there were also times when I got my ass royally kicked. But on top of that, I'm also doing the usual stuff with the salmon run and stuff, and I have started noticing that they have started inserting little musical things into it that I'm pretty sure are going to be something that comes from that's going to be in Splatoon Raiders, because I think they're trying to slowly but surely kind of you know insert that into it. But other than that, I'm also going through my second run of Deltarune. As I've said before, the reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to go back and find all of the old, all of the secrets and stuff, specifically the secret bosses that will because every time you defeat the secret bosses, you get like a really strong item that you can use, and you also get a dark shard, which is not really well explained in the game, but I have a strong feeling that it's going to be a thing that is when the full game is finally released, it's probably going to end up having um, a significant effect on what the ending is going to be. Um, Much like what ended up with Undertale, where getting the true pacifist route, you had to essentially you go around doing a bunch of stuff that's kind of esoteric to finally get it. So yeah, I'm still playing that, and honestly, going back and replaying it is reminding me just how good of a game it really is, and how when the whole thing is finally done, it's going to be a freaking masterpiece. It really is. But the third game I have been playing, and it is a game that I am going to be reviewing, and it's taken me a while to start writing the review. Um, Opus Prism Peak. This is part of the Opus series by the I'm trying to remember it's by Sigono Inc., which is a Taiwanese studio. And I'm actually familiar with the last Opus game, which was Echoes of Star Song, which was actually really good. If a little simplistic in the way it plays. But Opus Prism Peak, the basic idea is you're playing this guy named Eugene who he's like 40 years old. His marriage has fallen to shambles. He's lost his job, and he just sold his beloved camera, which was given to him by his late grandfather. And when the game starts, he's basically driving to his grandfather's funeral. Um, and then as he drives into a tunnel, he ends up crashing into what looks like a tree. And when he gets out, he finds himself in basically this odd little town that looks like it's like a weird combination of like a sort of rural Taiwanese Japanese town, but it's inhabited by both people who are humans and also sentient animals as well. And there's this like ongoing conflict between nature and industry, very Studio Ghibli type of thing. And while there, he runs into this little girl named Ren. That's not what her name apparently actually is. It's just the name he gives her because for whatever reason she doesn't remember what her name is. The only thing she does know is that she lives up on the mountain that's next to Eugene's childhood home. Um, and essentially, how he interacts through this world is he gets a camera that is almost exactly like the one that his grandfather gave him. And with the camera, he goes around and he goes with his camera and he goes with his field journal, and by doing that he sort of interacts with the world, solving puzzles, finding out what this town is, what its deal is, why it's like the way it is, um, stuff like that. And this is like one of the highest rated games on Metacritic for this year, or at least the original PC version is. um, I am not playing the PC version, I am playing the Switch 2 version, and I physically had to wait a little bit before I could actually play this game effectively, because when I first downloaded it, when it first was released and we got the code for it, it was a mess. Like it was an absolute mess. It was stuttery. The controls were more suggestions than anything. There was a lot of graphical clipping, and it was damn near impossible to play. It even crashed on me once when I was playing it, and so what I ended up doing is I had to wait until the patch came out, which they did eventually release one. It plays better, but it still plays like crap. Um, the controls do work now at least, but like the graphics are still really, really like the it's still really stuttery as far as like animation and stuff goes. Um, but yeah, that's what I've been playing. So, Danner, what about you?
Yeah, the main thing that I've been playing as of late is The Adventures of Elliot and the Millennium Tales. This
Mm.
one came out uh, less than a month ago. Our code like arrived like the day it came out, so that's why I've taken so long. But yeah, like if you've been following, this is the game that Square Enix showed on the first Switch 2 Nintendo Direct. And yeah, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, there's no Octopath Traveler game," and it ended up being like the final announcement. And like, The Adventures of Elliot was first. So anyway, this game very much uses the HD 2D, and it is nice, but I will say that out of all of the HD 2D games, this one probably looks like the least impressive, mainly because when you're behind certain things like trees, they kind of get washed out, and I don't really have any good explanation as for why, because this is something that is done pretty much perfectly in the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 remakes, which also make use of the HD 2D style. That being said, like this game also isn't a traditional RPG either. In fact, it's more of an action game akin to Zelda. I
Yeah.
know people have made the comparisons to Secret of Mana. It really isn't that because Secret of Mana still had a level up system.
Mm.
Adventures of Elliot doesn't. The one thing that it does have is this. I I forget what they're called, but they're pretty much crystals that give your equipment sort of a buff, and you can only upgrade them like once in the game. But when you get the crystals, you can get these certain buffs that you can use to, obviously they're going to make your weapons more powerful, have more reach, and things like that. And they kind of work in a way where they have a point system. So let's say you have like 40 crystals you can use on each item. So every buff that you can use is going to have a star rating or a number attached to it, and that number will, pretty much decide whether you can go ahead and equip that buff. So it's very much like the materia system in that regard. So while a lot of the action is skill based, you'll still feel a whole lot stronger just because of the equipment that you do have. And all of it has a star rating, and obviously, like the better the stars, the more useful that uh, the abilities will be. But yeah, like there's a lot of comparisons you can make to Zelda, and I would say the comparisons are going to be uh, more to the more modern takes on Zelda that we see, like with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And the reason why I say that is because it has their own versions of shrines. And in these shrines, you'll find the buffs I was talking about, and you'll also find like their version of a piece of heart. It's called a shard of life. And as you get through the game, like you'll eventually have more hearts or shards, and like I ended like my playthrough with like 12 versions or 12 pieces of these hearts. So yeah, it's very much Zelda in that regard, but the puzzles um aren't as complex, but at the same time, like they also offer the old school Zelda feel, or not really old school, but like, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess Zelda feel, where sometimes you'll come across certain weapons or items in dungeons that are going to be like the main thing that you use in that dungeon. But at the same time, it does that Twilight Princess, or not Twilight Princess, it does that Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom thing where, you can be as creative as you want with the way you attack enemies, as long as you're attacking their weaknesses or however that may be. When I first started playing the game, it was really through the demo that I thought was really, really well done. And in fact, like I was enjoying that demo more than I was enjoying Mina the Hollower when I was on the review phase for that game. And yeah, like it was really, really charming. And that prologue took around 3 hours. And then when I got to playing the real game, um, I began to see how grindy it was. And it isn't grindy in the sense where like you're going to be doing a lot of leveling up, because obviously you don't do that. But it was grindy in the sense where a lot of the side quests and the main quests that you do require you to travel to certain points on the map. And the way it tries to add like some form of variety is they give you 4 different time periods to traverse through. You have your current time period, you have the Age of Magic, you have the Age of Restoration, and then you have the Age of Budding. And basically, these are all points in time within the same world. So the Age of Budding sort of takes place in sort of like a caveman sort of feel. The Age of Magic takes place at a time where magic just totally rules the land, and then the Age of Restoration takes place in the point where like the magic sort of like fell. And it's really cool seeing the way the worlds all sort of led to each other. But at the same time, as you're exploring each map, which are all going to be uncharted when you first get there, you realize that yeah, because you're in the same universe, you're in the same world, everything's going to be samey. The enemies are the same, the dungeons are the same except for a few differences. And the only thing different are really going to be the people and what they're wearing. So oftentimes it feels like you're doing the same dungeon or the same thing 4 times each, when you don't really have to do that. But at the same time, like you want to be able to get all the good stuff. Um, but yeah, a lot of the complaints that people have with the game are with that, along with the fact that Faye, your fairy companion, talks a lot. And this game is completely voice acted. So whenever Elliot is traveling to any given destination, Faye is, jibbing jabbing and whatnot, and she'll, eventually like spoil puzzles in that way. And actually, there was a patch put to the game on Friday, which actually allowed you to shut her up. Before there was a setting where you can make her not talk as much, but at the same time, people thought it was a lot. Now, I personally did not think it was all that annoying. In fact, I found it to be a little bit charming. But the one thing I have to point out is the fact that at the very beginning of the game, during the prologue, your companion is the princess of the realm, and like she was actually a joy to listen to. And eventually, she gets replaced by that fairy because of plot reasons. And yeah, she is annoying because she has that little girl's voice, and she gets really squeaky. But I didn't mind that a whole lot. I guess it's because I'm just like, used to being around kids all the time, so there's that. But yeah, I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. For me, the hard thing was really just was exploring the same worlds over and over. And when you're exploring, like, let's say you're exploring the same version of Hyrule except in different time periods, like you're gonna think that you've already been to some place. So it gets kind of annoying to find out that you have to follow a different route to get to a certain area, and like studying the map doesn't make enough sense in that regard. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed what I've played out of the game. There are 3 endings. I've already unlocked 2 of them, and they're really tied behind how much you actually put into it. If you decide to just straight line the path and all of a sudden get to the ending, you get a really, really short one that doesn't really, do much for it. The second ending really depends on the amount of side quests you chose to partake, especially in regards to each time period you're in. And it definitely feels like more of an epic quest if you do that, because the one thing that you really need in order to unlock that second ending is getting the light staff, which is pretty much like their version of the master sword. It's a legendary sword that allows you to have all of this power, and you can unlock a certain ability to put uh the final slash on the enemy there to, like, destroy them once and for all. And then the last ending is obviously like the best one, and it requires you to not really do every side quest in the game, but you want to be able to do most of them. And you also want to be able to explore the world to the utmost. The reason why this one is annoying is because it requires you to get all the cats in the game, or maybe not all the cats, but most of them. And the problem with that is you'll find a lot of cats early on in the game, but you can't actually collect them yet, and you'll also find them in dungeons. So when you have to backtrack to certain dungeons and uh, look for where they are, that gets annoying. But at the same time, you also have like their distinct location on the
Hmm.
map, so you'll have a
Yeah.
general idea of like where to go once you actually get there. But it is annoying having to backtrack through a dungeon that you've already played through.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, like when you actually get to this last ending, even though a lot of the side quests are mundane, like they require you to talk to a person in the future and all of a sudden talk to a person in the past in this given area and whatnot. And if you don't have all the warping guideposts, it gets a little bit annoying in that regard. And yeah, it just gets too fetch questy for its own good. And like that kind of reminded me about a lot of my problems with other HD 2D games, like the Octopath Traveler games, for example. The main problem with those games is that they don't really do a good job, like trying to make the whole quest seem whole. Because there's 8 characters and um, they all have the different reasons for going on that quest and whatnot, and all of them do have like the ability to make the quest whole. But at the end of the day, like it requires you to beat a really hard boss in order to get to that point. So all of them do that. Live Alive does that. Um, Triangle Strategy also has 3 endings, and then with Dragon Quest 1 and 2, while it doesn't do that thing specifically, the fact that you have to play 1 and 2 consecutively, and then the second game is actually like 4 times as long as the original game was, it does feel grindy in that regard. So like the thing with these HD 2D games is that obviously they're great, they look really nice, but they all overstay their welcome, and unfortunately, the Adventures of Elliot does the same thing. That being said, it's still a game that I wholeheartedly recommend. It's probably like the best RPG light game that has come out this year. But at the same time, we're going to see a whole lot more coming out later in the year. So yeah, that review is going to come out sometime this week. I am making my way through like some of my final parts of the side quest, just because I mentioned they are a little bit mundane. But yeah, that's a game that I've really been enjoying. The next game I've been playing is College Football 27. I have not put nearly as much time as Chris has put into his game. I am reviewing the game for a Temple of Geek. But yeah, I did want to wait a little bit, considering that they kind of did the same thing with Madden and college football last year during the pre-release period. They didn't really like make anything good until like the game actually came out, which looks to be the case this time as well. As Chris mentioned, a whole lot of patches, and I did see a whole lot of hoopla regarding microtransactions. Pretty much like being sort of an easy, medium, hard in regards to like the regular modes that you play, because in the previous games you could like pretty much control the amount of experience you'd be getting for your player, and like that, yeah, that really allowed you to chill with the game. Whereas now, or like before the patch, you had to buy yourself into that, and I'm like, okay, that's gross. Let's not do that, guys. But yeah, I've also been playing a little bit of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced. I've never played the original game, so playing this one is a little bit of a breath of fresh air, considering
Hmm.
that the last and only Assassin's Creed game I've actually beaten was Shadows, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, this is a game that I'll definitely put some more time in, but yeah, it's gonna just depend on the time that we have. And before I finish, I just wanted to talk about 2 games that I played a few weeks back, but we had a tight embargo on. The first one is Orbitals. That was a game that I played at the Nintendo booth at Summer Game
Mm.
Fest, and the embargo lifted on Monday. And yeah, like if you haven't seen this one yet, this is the Kepler published game. And it is if you look at it, it looks very much like 70s and 80s classic anime, and the gameplay actually just follows suit with that as well. It is a cooperative game, much in the same way that the Hazelight games are. So if you enjoyed It Takes Two, if you enjoyed Split Fiction, I definitely see you enjoying Orbitals. The main thing is that it's definitely very space cowboy-y, and it's also I want to say it's a little bit harder, just because a lot of the puzzles that Adriana, who I played with, a lot of them were timing based and memory based, which wasn't really the case with any of those Hazelight games. So that's something to watch out for. But at the same time, like we only played the game for 20 minutes, so we've only really scratched the surface as to what you can do. But yeah, the game is absolutely beautiful, and it's totally right at home with the Switch too. So that one definitely looks like a winner when that comes out later this fall. And then the other one that I played was The Blood of Dawnwalker. Thanks to
Mm.
Bandai Namco for inviting me over to LA. They paid for my flight. They paid for my health from my hotel to be able to play this game at a cathedral, which is
Oh
like
yeah.
obviously pretty ironic because a lot of this stuff is like Antichrist, but at the same time it's like cool, we're doing it. But yeah, this was a pretty cool experience. We played the first 4 hours of the game, which is pretty much the prologue. And like, yeah, like just to be honest, I did not know much about this one at all. I knew it was heavily marketed. Like this was something that they showed at PAX West. Nothing was
Mm.
playable there, but there was just this big old candlelight set. And then in the UK, Chris Penwell actually got into their Blood of Dawnwalker activation, and it was actually a confession booth. So someone who
Hmm.
is not religious, did that and was able to enjoy what he did there. So what I got my hands on was the first playable, and as I mentioned, it was the first 4 hours of the game, and I did not know that the development team is pretty much just former CD Projekt Red. I have
Yep.
not played The Witcher, so in regards to like a lot of the Western RPG nuances, I was impressed by a lot of it. So if anything, like this game makes me want to go try The Witcher out. But anyway, the elevator pitch for this game is it's The Witcher, except you're a vampire. And to be honest, and like maybe I'm wrong, but I can't think of a single vampire video game that was actually good. The closest thing that I've played was Vampire, made by Don't Nod a few years ago, and I did not like that one at all. Um,
Well, I mean, at least not recently. There hasn't been. There was Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines back in the day, but that's been well over like 20 years ago. So
yeah, and I heard the modern version was pretty mid. So
yeah, it was extremely mid.
yeah, so there's that. But like, yeah, this one looks like it has the sauce. It starts off with you just like, learning about the world. Like, yeah, obviously there are vampires everywhere, and they're actually part of this bigger cult, part of this religious cult. And um, I believe it's every month, there is a mass that is held at the village where the game takes place. And at this mass, all of the villagers have to, cut their hands up and give up a certain amount of blood so that they would remain cleansed. And yeah, like, for me, it was like unfitting to watch just because like I'm not used to, or I don't really like seeing self-harm. So that was something that was difficult for me. But yeah, like the one thing that I really enjoyed was just the RPG aspect of the game. So during the daytime, you play, just this typical villager named Cohen, and yeah, he has a family, or he's the oldest son of a family. His dad is just a regular contributor to the village. We don't know what his mom does, but his mom is pretty problematic. She is having like these night terrors. She's unresponsive. She won't eat. So what we do throughout this day is like we find ways to just make her feel better. We end up going fishing with the kids in the family, and we end up finding these herbs from this herb maker who can help make a potion to make the mom feel better. And it turns out that you find out that the herb person is actually a witch later on in the game, so that's a pretty cool dynamic. She also appears to be a love interest, so that's cool. But the cool thing is that depending on what you do, every side quest you do is allotted a point value that determines how long it takes throughout the day. Um, Later on in the game, there'll eventually be this 30-day cycle where you try to train your guy for this 30 days in order to make him strong enough to beat the head vampire or whoever he is. But it was just interesting seeing how this day-night cycle works. So it kind of felt like Persona in regards to like choosing which side quest you want to do, because you'll you'll have an idea of what you want to do just based on how the plot works, but also like everything you do is also going to impact a different part of your stats, right? So that's definitely something to take note of. There's also points in the game where you'll definitely want to be paying attention to what you're doing. Like as an example, when I got the herbs for my mom, I was the one who had to concoct the potion. And when it came to making the potion, I had to know exactly how many herbs, how many stirs, how many other ingredients I needed, and I forgot. And luckily, like nothing happened to my mom at that point in the game. But after I interviewed the devs, they told me that if I royally fucked that up, she would die. So I was like, oh shoot, well, what do I do from there? But yeah, the interview, which is also posted on SmashPad, also pretty much talks about a lot of what they had to do to get it ready. But the main thing that I got out of it was that a playthrough of the game should take roughly 50 hours. And there are also multiple endings just because of all the paths and decisions you can make in the game. So that's definitely something that has my attention as well. So I already put 4 hours into it. The main thing that I hate about previewing RPGs is the fact that I have to play that part again when it eventually comes to the review period. Luckily, Brandon will be doing that for us, but I also look forward to getting my hands on the real version of the game as well. And I think
Oh yeah.
this really could be a dark horse in regards to like game of the year.
Oh
The
yeah.
hard part is that it comes out in a very crowded time. It comes out in
Yeah.
the beginning of September, which
Yep.
Onimusha was moved to, and that September also has Fire Emblem. It has Trails in the Sky second chapter. It has Control. It has Wolverine. September is stacked, but
Mm.
let's just get ready for it. But
Yeah.
definitely don't count out Blood of Dawnwalker.
Oh yeah. But I think one of the I don't know if you brought it up. You might have, and I simply just sort of I don't know, wasn't listening or whatever. But
Mhm.
a big part of Blood of Dawnwalker, and I know you've said this, you've told me so, and you mention it in both of the articles you've written for the site. The way that because like the whole idea behind this game is you've basically got 30 days to do your objective.
Yes.
Yeah, from the start. And the way that it's sort of divided up, very, very similar to how the Persona games work.
Yep.
Because there's like you're going about, and like during the day you're just basically living like a regular person. I mean, you do have access to like spells and stuff, but you're using it for like fairly mundane sort of type of things, like trying to track someone or that kind of thing. And there's also all these side quests that you do. Some of them will make time pass, some of them won't. And then by night, is when you become the badass vampire and you get to do badass vampire things. Basically, almost exactly the way that the Persona games sort of arrange themselves. You got
Yeah.
your daytime stuff where you're like going about the regular life, and then the nighttime stuff where you have to go into the dungeon or whatever.
Yeah. One thing I didn't mention about the vamp. Well, actually, I didn't even talk much about the vampire gameplay at all. The vampire gameplay is actually really, really fun. It also pretty much takes out the RPG-ness of it just because most of it is going to be combat related, and a lot of the dungeons are at least from what I played were um they're pretty what's it called? What's the word? They're hmm. Like there's only one way. Like there's no like multiple ways to like go through a dungeon. They're very they're on
Linear,
rails, if you will. What was the word?
linear.
Linear. There you go. There. Lost my point there. But yeah,
To be
they're
fair, though,
very
you are playing like the early part of the game.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So they're linear in that regard, but at the same time, like it was a good way to teach you how to play because when you're a vampire, it kind of plays a lot like Dishonored from Bethesda, where you can point at some part of the map and ultimately just warp there depending on how much energy you have. So it has that in it. You also have vampire moves. So instead of like just using your sword and shield and directional combat, you also have the ability to slash them. Obviously, you have the ability to bite them, and when you bite them, you can like depending on who you're biting, obviously you can get some health back and things in that regard. As you're exploring certain caverns, you can just like eat up squirrels or frogs for energy, just because you can lose a lot of it just based on what you're doing. And like the gameplay really feels more varied as you go through each day and night. Because obviously, with the daytime, you have the RPG stuff, and then with the nighttime, it becomes like more action oriented. And at the same time, it's like when you're interacting with people, the people that don't know you're vampires are obviously screwed. But at the same time, those that know you're a vampire know that they're going to be like backing away from you a little bit just because of how dangerous you can be. So I've always really enjoyed that aspect. And when you eventually get to the point where you do get to the 30 days and the open world, you also get to explore to an extent where you will see what enemies you have to avoid because they are super overleveled and you should totally avoid them. But at the same time, in the interview that I had, I was also told that you can kill Brentis on your first go if you're good enough, which probably won't happen right away. But it's pretty cool that they have that in that regard as well. And then the one thing that they said was that the 30 days may not be they may not be only 30 days like once it's said and done. So I don't know what exactly that meant in regards to gameplay or the story, but it's definitely something to take note of. But yeah.
I have heard like supposedly rumors that as far as this game goes, that you could do like the thing that some people did with like Breath of the Wild, where you could literally just go to the boss and try
Yes.
and kill them right then.
Yes.
So that might
But
be part of it.
I've also died just climbing towers, so obviously
Yeah.
that's advised.
Mm.
But yeah, that's about it.
All right, so yeah, let's get to some news, and we got a few bits of good news, and here we got an update for Nintendo Switch Online for their classic stuff. No GameCube games, because again, no good things can happen there.
Nope.
But we got 3 new Game Boy games and a new Game Boy Advance game. The Game Boy Advance game is a little duo cartridge of Dr. Mario and Puzzle League.
Yep.
That play like GBA versions of Dr. Mario and Puzzle League.
Yep.
And I recommend on Dr. Mario, don't listen to the game when it's like, hey, play this on a medium difficulty at medium speed.
Yeah.
Because that is a bad way to play Dr. Mario. You want to start slow.
Seriously.
And both of these have multiplayer to them, 2-player multiplayer. You can play against other people. With that, I played all 4 of these on a stream. Check them out. And those 2 work exactly what you expect. They may have some extra little modes. Try to make them more worth the money that they're asking for. The Game Boy trio here are actually pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Trio of games here. The first one is Fortified Zone.
Yep.
Which is a top-down shooter, almost like the way that like the shooting stuff in Metal Gear works.
Yeah.
On the NES. But you're going around these specific like maze sets of levels, like these different screens and all that. It's a very easy game, especially if you're using the rewind and all that. But it's pretty easy to kind of run around and shoot enemies, because mostly once you beat the enemies in a little screen, they tend to not respawn.
Yeah.
You're kind of just going around collecting stuff. You get power-ups that are a like special weapon versus your main weapon, so you might get triple shots, rocket launcher, flamethrower, that kind of stuff that has its own ammo count. But you tend to get that stuff filled up pretty quickly again before it runs out. So yeah, it's a solid one of those. Probably take you an hour or 2 to beat it. Not too long. Here's the Sword of Hope 2 for the Game Boy. Which, much like the original, you can play the original, it's already on there. Then play this one and see like, oh, they made it, the UI's a lot better, it plays a lot better. Same kind of almost like a text adventure meets an RPG, where you're picking directions to go, and you can like look in the room to get more information on what's in the room, and that might add more things to interact with.
If you've
that
ever
kind of
played
stuff.
if you've ever played Shadowgate, this is basically that.
Yeah. And it seems like a pretty similar map from what I've seen, um, at least initially. Um, you wander around a bit, you have some currency up front, you fight some enemies. On occasion, you can run back to the castle to refill your health as needed. This is another one of those games where you can do save states or rewind or whatever, and that'll help you out. So I'm dealing with
Mm.
too much of the game's potential bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But sort of once you get a few levels in, you can kind of survive on your own a bit further than usual.
Mm.
You end up wandering to a nearby dungeon to try to, beat up some bad guys and all that. And there's like these splotches on the walls that you have to hit. And then you get a ghost boss, or not boss, but a ghost enemy that you have to fight for a bit. So there's like that level of need to interact with the environment to find all the enemies around. So yeah, that's a pretty neat little game. And the big one here is Super Mario Land 3, which is the first Wario Land game. Which, in contrast to the first two Super Mario Land games, this is less of a pure Mario platformer and kind of the start of the style of game that the Wario Land games are, which is that you're kind of uh, more exploring the environment to find uh, various like side exits and all that kind of stuff. Especially in this game, you kind of have the most Mario thing is that there are power ups that change the hat that Wario's wearing, and that gives you different boosts, like a little fireball thing you can shoot out, thing that lets you, I think, run a little bit better. Something that like lets you jump better. So there's like some gameplay benefits to different ones. Um, and yeah, this game works pretty well. And yeah, you're just kind of running around doing all that kind of stuff. And as you beat the each stage, you get this little like Kirby style choice of a little mini game to do at the end, where you're picking either um, one that you're like guessing whether which of these two like buckets has money in it. You can do that 3 times, and it doubles the coins you have on you each time. So if you come in with a bunch of coins, you can basically max it out at 9.99. And with the rewind and all that, you can basically just cheat at that part of the game. Um, the other one is has a little more gameplay to it. I'm trying to remember what exactly it was. I think you're trying to get these hearts that are sort of how you get levels or lives, one ups and all that. It's kind of their version of the Mario coin, because the coins here are used for like opening up extra doors and all that. And so yeah, that's a pretty cool game. Playing these with my Pro controller too, I was like, oh yeah, the D-pad on this thing is pure shit because I was having issues going the way I wanted to on these games. And so it's like when this is having trouble with Game Boy games, it's not really a great controller
Mm-hmm.
for that stuff. I'll just have to use my Super Nintendo controller for that stuff in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a fun thing to realize. Like, oh, this $95 controller is not great at playing Game Boy games. That's
Mm-hmm.
maybe an overpriced controller. But yeah, that's stuff that's available now, so you can check that out. The next bit of news here is what I was hinting at earlier. The microtransaction stuff that is in the two main modes of College Football 27, Dynasty and Road to Glory, has been causing a lot of outrage amongst people on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and I figured they would go back on that at some point. I didn't think it would be the day after launch.
Mm-hmm.
They put out a big announcement about this. Yeah, basically offering some mea culpa, but not really saying like we won't do this again in the future. It seems like we're not going to do this for this year's game, but we'll try again next year. Is the vibes I got off of that statement there, but yeah, it seems like they will be pulling them out of the game. I don't know when they're going to be doing this. Probably with an update that's coming soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
I assume. But yeah, that's not a huge surprise that that happened. So there you go. It'll just stick to the Ultimate Team mode, which is pretty bad mode these days.
Mm-hmm.
I played some of the early challenges they want you to do is like the tutorial stuff. I got an achieve, I got or a trophy as like one of the trophies. It's like pass for 600 yards, X amount of touchdown, all this stuff. And I was just doing one of these challenges, like, man, what the fuck is going on here that this caused a trophy to pop? I also had one that was there's one where you're supposed to field a punt return at 10 yards, but they put the punter in such a position that he always kicked it towards the your end zone, so your returner never caught it. So I'd have to run the guy back, try to catch it, and would keep missing it. And one time it hit the returner, and then I picked it up, and that didn't count as 10 yards because it was a missed punt return, I guess. So yeah, so there you go. That's a game that I'm not surprised going back on this microtransaction stuff for the two modes. They're trying to fit it in there, but I'm sure it won't be the last time they try to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there you go for that one.
All right.
Then we got some stories here about how mobile gaming kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Mario Kart Tour is shutting down September 29th. They will not be doing any sort of offline version. So if that was the Mario Kart version that you liked, which I don't think that many people were that into at this point, that is just going to go away. Any money you spent on that, or anything that you wanted to keep playing that or whatever, that'll be just gone for good. So that is fun to see. They have turned off automatic renewals and new subscriptions for the Gold Pass. I think they had like a monthly Battle Pass kind of thing in there. The in-game currency has also been suspended, so you hopefully won't be spending any more money on that game if you were still spending money on it. So yeah, and they say that all subscriptions will end by August 4th. But yeah, you'll be able to use the Gold Pass stuff. It'll be free to everybody until the end of service, so if you want to play it before the end, you can at least get a little bit of benefit out of that. But yeah, that one will just go away. And speaking of things going away, Square Enix loves to shut down their mobile games, especially the ones that are Final Fantasy VII themed. This is Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. That was kind of a weird mobile remake of Final Fantasy VII, but not necessarily in the way that Final Fantasy VII Remake is. It was more trying to present the story as is with some battles to it, but kind of more just a weird way of getting the story out of it versus the actual like RPG battles or anything like that. Even though they have some of that still in there, because I guess this is also partly a gacha game, getting outfits and characters and all that kind of stuff out of it. Which has been on mobile and PC. It's on Steam. So if you want an easier way to check that out, you can check it out on Steam. I think you might be able to also play it on Steam Deck. So if you want to check out this weird version of Final Fantasy VII that Square made for mobile and PC, you can. That'll be down October 6th. So you can check that out, I guess. Do a kind of weird thing Square Enix made. I don't know. This is going to be one that's going to get retrofitted into another game.
Yeah.
They just have the Final Fantasy remake, 7 remake trilogy. That's good enough for them. So there you go. The mobile games going away for good.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely comes at a bit of a surprise, especially from Nintendo with Mario Kart Tour. Like that's a game that I know more than a few people have continued to play to this day. Not nearly as much, but it's definitely part of their daily rotation. So it's sad to see that one go away, especially after they've pretty much released an offline version of Animal Crossing. So it's weird that this one didn't get that treatment, but I'm guessing it was probably because of things like their deal with Mercedes-Benz and whatever, because car deals are always complicated. And then with the Ever Crisis stuff, like it makes you wonder if they'll, spin that off into something like what they're doing with that HD 2D Final Fantasy game at the end of the year, because that's pretty much Brave Exvius. But yeah, who knows? It's just weird because, uh, console game makers try to, get a bite of that apple in regards to mobile, but they're shutting things down the wrong way when they know that there is some value into the game still existing despite not monetizing anymore. I don't know, it's just weird stuff. I'd assume there's some royalty fees to Apple or Google or whoever it may be in regards to, keeping things awake.
It's also that mobile gaming is not a place where uh, continued playing of games is expected. Uh, Platform holders and publishers and developers have always just shut down games and taken away things that you paid for as long as those have been around.
Yeah, I mean, I get that they have, but Nintendo didn't do that with Animal Crossing, which is why it's weird to me.
Yeah, but all their other games they just took down.
True.
Yeah, like it's rare that they have another way to play them. But like, yeah, unless you're making a decent chunk of change, they're not going to keep up with those games, especially as probably also getting like uh, EU regulations and all this kind of stuff are probably creeping up as things need to change. At a certain
Yeah.
point, a lot of those things probably become too expensive for what they're bringing in. So
Mhm.
it's unfortunate, but you just have to find other ways of maybe playing them on emulators for Android and whatnot. But yeah, we
Okay.
got some other news here. Some good news. Two good news stories here in a row.
Yeah.
Bithell Games announced their next release, which is a immersive sim called Vampirium 1997.
It's a very stripped down idea of an immersive sim, but it is an immersive sim regardless.
Yeah, and basically it is set in a place where England is being ruled by Dracula, and you are one of his assassins,
Yeah.
helping to keep his rule going on.
Yep.
That's kind of a pretty cool idea here.
Yeah.
I think it's a unique idea, but it's still a cool one to have.
It's not. Kim Newman came up with the idea like well over 20 years ago with Anno Dracula. But
Yeah,
yeah, basically the idea is this is because as somebody who's read the original book, Dracula's whole thing was that he was trying to worm his way into the British aristocracy so that he could eventually take the throne for himself. And this sort of goes with the idea as he succeeds in that, and you're one of his agents required to go out and do his bidding.
yeah, which makes sense. He's in, a being that doesn't die. At least
Yeah, he
not
doesn't
if you can
die.
help it. Help
Yeah.
it. So of course he could eventually overtake the throne at some
Hmm.
point. Find a weak point when somebody dies or whatever. Take
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
So that makes
Or he
sense,
just turned someone.
especially when it's in the 90s.
Yeah. And remember, he can turn someone. Remember, Dracula's whole thing is that he can make other vampires.
Yeah,
And they're all like, all the vampires he makes are specifically loyal to him. So, yeah,
yeah,
it's a damn cool idea for a game. I definitely want to give it a shot.
yeah. Let's see. It seems like it's just going to be Steam for now, going into
Yeah.
early access at some point, maybe later this year.
Yep.
So that'll be neat to see.
Hmm.
And the other bit of good news is that Ubisoft finally has a game that sold well. Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed Black Flag Resynced sold
Yeah.
2 million copies in its first day,
Hmm.
which makes sense when you remake the last like universally positive Assassin's Creed game
Yep.
that much of the fan base liked
Hmm.
before they put out the Paris one that ran like shit and
Yeah.
nobody liked. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. 2 million
Mm.
units sold in one day. Pretty good start.
Mm.
So yeah, we'll have some bad news about that game, but for now, that's the good news. Then we got this bit of news out of Nintendo because the EU announced a new um, regulation that would require electronics devices to offer versions of them that would be able to easily replace the battery for users.
Mhm.
So Nintendo finally announced that, yeah, in mid-February 2027, they're going to have this for much of their offerings. So like the original Switch 1 Joy-Cons, you will be able to get that. And they also note like weight and battery capacity changes for these things. So there's that. The Switch 2 will be available in this autumn. It seems like it'll be pretty much the same battery capacity. The weight will be a little bit heavier. With the Joy-Con 2 controllers, it'll be about 14 grams heavier. On that, the Joy-Con 2s will be available this winter. Basically slightly heavier, but probably no real change. The Switch 2 Pro controllers, the most affected here, they'll be out this winter. It'll be approximately 16% smaller battery than the current version. And will weigh about 7 grams lighter. The N64 controller will be early next year. No real changes there. And the GameCube controller will also be early next year. That one's gets a 5% larger battery and will be around 5 grams heavier. So those things will be available over the course of the next year. Here as the regulations go into effect. But as part of this, they're not doing this for the original Switch, so they're basically going to be winding down sales for that in Europe. So what's out there is what's left for that. And I believe some of the controllers, the NES controller, the Super Nintendo controller, maybe the Genesis / Mega Drive controller are also being phased out. So if you want those in Europe, you'll have to buy those sooner rather than later. These are not being phased out in any other regions. Seems like just Europe.
Yeah.
There you go on that. But let's get to the portion of the show that is on layoffs.
It's a bloodbath, folks. Look out.
Yeah, this one's related to the Xbox news, but IO Interactive had to shut down their Istanbul studio after their deal with Xbox for Project Fantasy has ended. They just don't have the funding to keep that studio going. They've had to lay that whole team off. Which is a shame. Not sure if there's any numbers here about how many people there were, but they still have studios in Copenhagen, Brighton, Barcelona, and Malmo. So they still have quite a few studios left, but unfortunately, had to shut down one as a result of Xbox pulling out of their deal. And as I mentioned, people were laid off as a result of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resync's launch. 51 at their Barcelona studio were laid off. Basically, right as soon as the game launched, they were laid off pretty shortly after that. So that is unsurprising, but a shame still. So that is the Ubisoft layoff of the week. As I kind of get these small cuts here and there. So there you go. Any thoughts on that?
No. Other than the fact that this is more or less just the ongoing story right now. Go on.
Release a game, get laid off. Don't release a game, get laid off.
Yep.
Cancel
and also
game,
this
get
is
laid off.
Ubisoft, so
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show that, a lot of the decisions made by, bigger companies are going to have ripples throughout the industry. Unfortunately, this is our version of trickle-down economics. I wasn't here for the discussion on PlayStation, not doing discs anymore, but, that decision is going to end up with a lot of other retailers going down. And, there's no great way to put that. Obviously, as consumers, you want to vote with your wallet, but at the same time, the rough reality is we are a very, very small percentage of that money-making pool. So, we'll just have to see. But at the end of the day, it's rough.
Yeah. I mean, basically, if this whole generation has basically been a race to the bottom. and the whole industry is suffering because of it.
And through things that they weren't necessarily involved with.
Mm-hmm.
With COVID causing a lot of issues through AI soaking up a lot of the components to keep making various consoles and devices.
Mm-hmm.
To the war on Iran, that's increased costs for just shipping things around the world, and tariffs and all that kind of stuff. Uh, the games industry, much like a lot of industries, has just been heavily affected by a lot of this stuff. I've had to unfortunately make a lot of changes to accommodate the realities of the way everything seems to be
Mm-hmm.
going these days, where nothing is allowed to just be easily affordable
Mm-hmm.
because the companies themselves are getting squeezed on costs of components
Mm.
and all that. So that makes just a huge problem all around.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to that point where things really, really get worse before they get better, because they're going to get worse, folks. Like, if you think uh, a $700, $900 Steam Deck is a lot, no, they're going to be higher than that. We're probably going to
Yep.
see the Switch 2 cost $700. We are
Yep.
probably going to see the iPhone reach 2000, and I don't think we're going to like. I think it won't be until we reach the point where that iPhone reaches that 2000 where people realize, wait, what the hell happened? Why did this happen? Oh, it's because I supported AI. Shit, what did I do? Yeah, you have yourselves to look at, but at the same time, it's like a lot of things were just made normal that should not have been normal. Like, when you think when you take a look at like the natural goods, like it didn't take until eggs were $7 to realize, yeah, we screwed up with somewhere. So, and the other thing is, it's like it's tough to tell when they're gonna go down either. Like, obviously, like some common resources did, but because companies know they can sell things at such a premium, there's no reason to go down.
Yeah, there's no company that can weather two, three, $400 of costs that they're not giving to the consumers. Like nobody's going to take that kind of bloodbath anymore. Sony took that, and it took them an entire generation just to work that money off of their books,
Yep.
and they're not going to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo want to keep raising the prices.
Mm.
It's that they have to, and they understand fully that their uh, audience is going to shrink progressively as that happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's not much they can do about it outside of offering other ways of acquiring those things,
Mm-hmm.
like buy now, pay later stuff that can be a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes isn't. Depends on the deals. You just have to pay attention to that stuff. But yeah, we'll get to the Microsoft news that they announced they are laying off 3,200 people and are
Yep.
divesting themselves of 5 studios. So
Mm-hmm.
the specifics here is that they have laid off 1,600 people immediately
Yep.
and will lay off the other 1,600 over the course of the next year until the end of June of 2027.
Which I think is like the largest layoff in the industry's history, at least in the last few generations. Because
Maybe.
wow, that is a lot of people.
And it's a great way to make games, thinking that at any point over the next year, you might be getting laid off.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like from what we've seen from a lot of the people that have spoken out about being laid off, that they cut a lot of senior people at a lot of these studios, which is not a great way to keep making good games when you're just getting rid of institutional knowledge that defines a lot of the games these teams. But yeah, 5 of those studios, 2 of them were able to buy themselves out. That is Double Fine and Compulsion. And they were able to get their IPs back, which for Compulsion is just 2 games. So once they are sort of ready to go, you should see like Xbox removed from the publishing side of their pages
Mm-hmm.
on all the storefronts. Double Fine gets all their IP back. Psychonauts, stacking, Costume Quest, all that stuff they should be getting back, which I'm sure is a big get for them because they've not had much luck keeping their IPs in the past. It took them a while to get a lot of them back. Microsoft involved in owning some of their IPs.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Trenched. That was the one that they had to buy back at some
Yep.
point because Microsoft controlled it for publishing it. But then some of them were
Mm-hmm.
published by THQ before they went out of business, so they had to uh, either auction, but try to buy their rights back from auction, or make a deal with the studio that ended up buying it. So,
Mm.
but that doesn't mean great news for either of these studios because going independent now in this era of the industry is not a guarantee of anything being good for you in the
Nope.
future. Uh, as we mentioned, Double Fine is in San Francisco, a very
Mm-hmm.
expensive town to operate in, um, and a studio that has made a lot of games that are not huge sellers.
Mm.
Um, if they can kind of get back to maybe the XBLA era where they broke up into small teams and kind of made a bunch of small games to put out fairly often, they can maybe get back to a point of doing well enough to keep them afloat, but they're going to have their challenges with that.
Mm-hmm.
But at least they control their future in such a shaky time. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for that, yeah, what else? The two of the studios did not get to buy themselves out. Ninja Theory and Undead Labs have been sold off to another entity.
Mm.
We don't know what that is yet. I don't know if it's because the deal is not finished yet or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll probably find out sometime soon in the next couple of months.
Mm.
I assume because these teams are basically given like a couple of weeks to try to find a buyer. And from what the way that they phrase it on the Xbox Wire memo that uh, Asha Sharma put out, they don't imply that they are getting their IPs to go with them,
Mm-hmm.
which is not a huge surprise. Yeah, because they mentioned Compulsion Games and Double Fine Productions will return to management, transition to independent studios with their IP catalog, and run away for their next games.
Mm.
Ninja Theory and Undead Labs have entered terms to join new ownership, with funding to complete and grow Senua and State of Decay 3,
Mm-hmm.
no membership of getting their IP and catalog back. They mentioned in France, Arcane's management is beginning required consultation with its Works console to review potential strategic options. So they are, uh, France and UK have these like consultation periods that are required when you're trying to shut down or divest yourselves of a studio or lay people off. To give them a period of being able to find, potential buyers or deals for the people being laid off or whatever. So Arcane is kind of going through that process to potentially find a new buyer, and that may take a while. But at least they're seeming to put money up with this to help the whoever's buying these studios to not be on the full hook for buying, paying for the new games. Um, no idea if it's the full amount or whatever is going on here, but at least some of it they're getting with that. And they're doing this way because it's the best PR way to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, none of these deals are necessarily guaranteeing these studios a safe future.
Mm.
So if they have layoffs at a certain point because, their next games are not selling well or they have issues with finding funding or anything like that, those don't go on Xbox's bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Or as something that directly was caused by Xbox, even though most people would reasonably say, yeah, this was not a situation that would guarantee their future success
Mm-hmm.
in any way. So, but they get to spin those numbers as well. That's not our fault, kind of thing.
Mm.
But yeah, those are kind of the big things that were announced, and then we started getting a bunch of other news. Warren notices in a number of states. Let us know how much or how many people were losing their jobs at specific places. In Maryland, 213 employees are being laid off from ZeniMax Online Studios
Yep.
and 116 at ZeniMax Media.
Mm-hmm.
ZeniMax Online Studios does Elder Scrolls Online,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a lot of money or a lot of people being laid off from
Oh,
there.
yes.
So No idea what their future plans for content is, but it's probably not big, huge expansions.
Nope.
But that game has been out for almost 10 years, if it's not been 10 years. Um, but they may be winding down on that at some point. We got one in California here. I confirmed that 52 Obsidian employees were laid off, including 43 at the California office and 9 that are remote workers. So that's a good chunk of their whole thing. They mentioned here Kevin LaChapelle, the vice president of the Xbox platform, who led the effort to build Xbox's backward compatibility program, and its cloud gaming team has been laid off after 37 years with the company. And if you're laying off that kind of person, anybody is up for layoffs here. Because he's helped build these teams and this framework to work on. So why do you need him anymore? Get some cheap people that can finish the work for whatever they need it in the future on that kind of stuff. Here, warn notices in Texas confirmed that 136 people were laid off from id, and another 22 were ousted from Bethesda Game Studios in Austin, making a total of 158 positions. And I don't think I have any specific thing here, but the large majority of those id Software layoffs were union members. I think it's 146 were CWA union members there, total amongst those 158. So, yeah, they're cutting a lot of union people at these places. I'm trying to see if there's any other numbers here. But, that's a lot of the numbers. We're still getting some reporting about more stuff. But, yeah, that's a lot of people at these places. And as we mentioned, Bethesda's been affected, and they seem like they are moving from a model where their studios kind of work on whatever interests them. They're going to be focusing on what they call a franchise-centric planning model, which means they're going to exploit their biggest IPs as much as possible. Elder Scrolls, which are working on Elder Scrolls 6, which also had people laid off there. In case you're wondering, even the big games are not immune to getting layoffs attached to them. Fallout, Wolfenstein, Doom are probably ones you'll see new games in continue to be, but maybe the other stuff does not get anything new from, unless they have some huge success, can build up to that, I guess. But probably won't see any more new IPs out of Bethesda for the foreseeable future, which is a shame. But as I mentioned, Obsidian lost a good bit of people. I think like a quarter of their studio in these layoffs, and it seems like they were working on a sequel to Avowed in the early stages on that. They've been forced to push that to the side because they're going to work on a new Fallout title, which, sure, they made a good one like 13 years ago, whenever that was. 13, 14 years ago, Fallout New Vegas, under pretty bad conditions, because I think they had to make that in like 18 months on an engine they did not make. Have to deal with, all the bugs and such that kind of come with that.
Yeah, and the game was notoriously buggy when it first came out.
Yeah. So now they are making a new Fallout game, with a bunch of people being laid off. Under intense scrutiny, potential for losing more people over the next year. And I would say this might be a worse situation to be making a new Fallout game than New Vegas was. With all that, so yeah, that is potentially good news in a handful of years whenever this is ready to go. They might end up having to crunch and get that out as soon as possible. We'll see. But yeah, supposedly they are trying to have a small team continue to work on Avowed 2, potentially to force Microsoft's hand to let it release, but I don't know how long you're going to have a small team keep making that.
Oh, yeah.
And not be working on the Fallout game or whatever else. They set up Grounded 2 they're making content for, and think there's DLC for the Outer Worlds too, so there's still plenty of things to keep working on. But yeah, that's going to be their next big thing for that. So that's some news. If you want to know how much Xbox cares about the fans, they're laying off the guy that brought back Xbox Fan Fest.
Yep.
So that's fun. He had been at Xbox for 15 and a half years. He was laid off. This is Chris Munson. It was part of the Halo marketing team back in 2010. That'd probably be like Halo 4, I think. He's worked on a bunch of Microsoft stuff, helped bring back Xbox Fan Fest and all that. And yeah, just a good sign of how this all is going for them.
Yeah. Let me just interject real quick to talk a little bit about Xbox Fan Fest. I think I mentioned it during the post SGF cast, but this year at SGF was my very first Xbox Fan Fest, and that thing is an event. They put up some real money for this one. Like they have it at the Oscar Museum, which is a very, very nice facility in LA. When I was going in to get my press credential, like I was put on the red carpet. They gave me an Xbox 25th anniversary hoodie. I was taking pictures with a step in repeat because it was this huge event. And like as I mentioned, like this was for SGF, so this was to watch their SGF showcase. And yeah, you watched it in the Oscar, well, not the Oscar theater, but the theater venue they have within the event center, and like they give you boxes of popcorn every floor that not every floor, but the press floor and the bottom floor had food for both like the attendees and media, and they were exactly the same. Like like a lot of money and pomp and circumstance goes into this event. They always do an amazing job with the event, and all of a sudden they're letting the guy go. That just sucks.
Yeah, just shows you that nobody's spared from any of this stuff. Again, people here that were around at Microsoft before Xbox existed, and others who were part of some big moments in Xbox history, just tossed to the side because they're probably making too much. If you've been there for 15 or 30 years, they can get new people to do those same things for much less. That's basically all that Xbox currently cares about.
Yeah.
Is less money on the books. And so much so that Bethesda HR in, I think, the Austin office had forced their office manager to take down a memorial for those that had been laid off. As I mentioned earlier, there's a small amount that was laid off from the Austin Bethesda Game Studio office. That HR found out and told them to take it down. Which is, sad thing. Like, and HR is not there to help the workers. They're there to help protect the corporation from any issues, but they're also there to be dicks when they want to be. Because this kind of stuff is pretty minor for things that they have to worry about. It seems like people in the main Rockville office as well were doing the same thing. And the Bethesda Games Studios Union account posted a photo showing that, and then the HR found out about it and had it removed. So that was fun. As they are, unfortunately, HR made our office manager take this down almost immediately. They said because it's in a common area, it had to be removed. We've used common areas for things as a team, including fan works, but HR seems to believe that a celebration of service is inappropriate. So yeah, just more shitty news.
Yeah, I will say though, like, I understand like the reasoning of why you want to have something like this out. Like, as someone that's been, laid off in a very similar fashion before, like, I don't know if I'd actually want this in my main area either. Like, I'd appreciate like me and my team like having appreciation like that as well. But at the same time, it's like we were kicked out of the building, so it's like no one's going to see this except the people that are still there. So yeah, that is a little bit weird, but at the same time, yeah, it is pretty shitty on the people team or the HR team to have to go through that as well. So that's just me.
And CWA Canada, the union was very much not happy at seeing how these layoffs are being handled for many of their people at Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
Though particularly talking about the Canada people there. Um, yeah, let's see, their president Carmel Smith explained that those who lost jobs have been working at Bethesda for up to a decade. That employees have described the current situation at Xbox as tantamount to psychological warfare. Um, yeah, workers say it's like having a sword hanging over your head or psychological warfare, and predict even those not laid off now will already be looking for other jobs. Morale, work, and game quality will absolutely be affected. The instability highlights a major problem with this industry, even though game use and consumer demand is consistently high. Employers are ruthless. Microsoft employees believe you only leave Microsoft if you quit or laid off. Only managers get to stay for a career and retire. As we've seen, some of those don't get that in this kind of situation. But yeah, very much unhappy with this and seem like they're going to be working on legal and contractual action. Same with the U.S. branch of CWA to probably ensure that their people there get the fairest deals and all that. But yeah, the one BGS union, the workers there are planning on a march or a rally, whatever they want to call it here, on July 15th in protest of these layoffs.
Yep.
So that is good to see. Yeah, in Rockville, Austin, Dallas, and Montreal, they're planning on doing something for each of those locations. So yeah, the company wants us to accept this as a done deal and quietly disappear. We won't let that happen. Our next steps are to mobilize. We need every single member visible and unified. Yeah, hopefully that's I don't know it's gonna obviously do anything, but at least show that they are together on that. So that's fun. I'm sure we'll see some pictures of that later this week.
Oh, most certainly.
And that's it for the layoff and employment news and all that. But we do have another bit of information here that Game Pass subscriber count is well below their goal for 2026. Seems like they were
no
planning
shit.
on 77 million user projection at some point by 2026. This is revealed in the details of the Activision Blizzard acquisition. That they were planning on this, and the last official count in 2024, Game Pass had around 34 million members, and it seems like this may still be hovering around 30 million. We don't know for sure, but yeah, this looks to suggest they are still around 30 million, so well less than half of what their aimed goal was to be. Which is not a surprise when they increased the price to $30 for Ultimate and changed the tiers around fairly consistent, like every other year, for a good degree, as they thought. Especially with the Activision acquisition, they're like, "Oh, we can get Call of Duty on this, and then everybody will subscribe, so they don't have to pay $70." And when they find out is, no, they like paying $70 for the one game they're going to play. Instead of $30 a month, $20 a month for the thing they're going to play all year.
Yeah,
because they realize $70 is less than $240. That's what everybody else figured out.
Yep.
But Xbox did not seem to realize that and fell for the trap. And now, like when they're advertising Modern Warfare 4, they'll have to put it's not on Game Pass to remind people that they can't get it that way. You got to pay for it this year. It's like that's a funny thing to see on marketing for your next big game. Is you can't get this on a subscription until maybe in a couple years. But the last story here doesn't really have anything to do with the games industry, but with the new head of the Federal Reserve, they seem to have a few different task force they're doing for various parts of economic stuff that's going on here. Asha Sharma, Xbox CEO, was picked for the productivity and jobs task force to co-lead. Which anybody seeing everything that happened here and being like, why, which is because she works at Microsoft, and that's a company that would probably want to be involved in this stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the most visible person there, besides the CEO of the entire company.
Mm.
So she will be doing something as related to this. The quote they have here: "They're examining areas central to the broad conduct of monetary policy,"
Mm.
which she has not really been involved with in any of her positions. So, yeah, that just shows how much people do not uh, like any of this stuff that's going on. This got pretty bad reception. Doesn't help that some of the other people that are involved in this is like people like Mark Andreessen. I think Brandon, you and I know is a really shitty person.
Yep.
Um,
The shittiest.
yeah, a guy who was kind of in the nice light like 10 years ago, and then has just become a really shitty person since
Yeah.
then.
Mm-hmm.
One of those bad kind of billionaires.
Yep.
And then a guy that's a professor of economics at Stanford University, who's currently on leave at AI firm Anthropic. So great choices all around.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that doesn't really have anything to do with it, but Asha Sharma news.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's also like ideal to keep in mind that normally these kinds of decisions are made weeks to months ahead of their actual announcement.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the timing here isn't ideal. I'm not here to defend anybody or any entity, but at the same time, it's like people are allowed to have things outside of their main work. We all do
Mm-hmm.
that, and this is one of them. That being said, I'm not saying anything bad won't happen. I'm not saying that, a company like Xbox pretty much getting involved with the feds is a good thing. But at the same time, it's to show that, like not everything is going to be revolving around the gaming industry.
but yeah, that's your Xbox news. Brandon, you have anything to add on any of this stuff?
Other than I expected it to be bad, and it was.
Yeah,
Like, this isn't just a layoff. This is historic.
yeah,
I think with this, we've unfortunately reached a point where I think we're at like 49,000 people losing their jobs in the gaming industry dating back to 2022 now.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it is not ideal anymore, folks. And I've told kids this at GDC. If this is the career you want to get into, I would not recommend it. But at the same time, a lot of the adjacent careers aren't great either. So
Yeah.
you pick your battles.
yeah. Especially as we head into what seems like some sort of bubble popping. Whether it's going to be a full-on recession or what, but there's too much kind of fake money around.
It's going to be the AI. I am putting my money down now. It's going to be the AI that burst,
You will see
Yeah.
$2,000 phones.
and it will drag the whole economy down with it.
As they expect to get bailed out like the banks did.
Yep.
So yeah. Tanner, do you have anything to add on any of this stuff?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't want to cause a stir.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I looked at the acquisitions they made since 2018, which is when they announced the first batch of studios they acquired at E3.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one that's come out of this, go ahead.
You can look back at that E3 photo of Phil Spencer like touting those acquisitions, and there's probably like 4 of them left. I don't know.
Yeah, there's only one studio that has come out of any of that well, and that's Playground Games, because they happen to be making the franchise that has weathered the storm better than anything else Xbox has been putting out since the Xbox One launched, basically. It's like the initiative was there that got shut down. Um, a bunch of them got spun off, like the ones we mentioned here: Double Fine, Compulsion, Ninja Theory, Undead Labs. Others got shut down, and yeah, just like only really one out of like 10 studios
Yeah,
did
and
well.
that just really goes to show about where the industry is too. Because remember, Forza wasn't always a playground game. That was mostly Turn 10, and a lot of the Turn 10 talent was spun off into Playground. So yeah, like a lot of the big studios just like help each other out, which is honestly what you have to do. But unfortunately, to be profitable in this industry, you have to utilize all of your creative resources to do that. And that means taking a lot of the creativity out of the stuff that was going to be created in the first place and going into like known IP, like a Forza. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, part of the problem is that era of Xbox bought studios that could, build a variety of games.
Mm-hmm.
And what current Xbox needs is specifically games that will sell really well.
Mm.
They
yeah.
don't really care about the artsy fartsy games, the Double Fines, the Compulsions, the Ninja Theories. Like the fact that Ninja Theory was, they made that first Senua game on a shoestring budget, made the money back in 3 months because they made everything about it in reasonable, cost to off the shelf tech and all that. That their first inclination is to make a sequel with as huge of a budget as possible shows exactly why Microsoft was the wrong ownership for them. Because making that super huge budget game that did not come out until like 7 or 8 years later, uh, not really what they wanted because it did not do well, and it extra did not do well because it cost so much to make, and now they're kind of uh, pushing back on that by making Senua more of a straight action game, but we don't really know how much of that because all we got is that trailer that was mainly a thing to advertise their future sale.
Mm-hmm.
But then just makes that last showcase during Summer Game Fest makes you side eye everything that was shown there.
Yeah.
How much Asha Sharma was talking about, like, oh, we're in this new era of Xbox, and like, yeah, where you don't own most of these studios,
Mm-hmm.
um, where you're like, what was the point of all of these games? And it makes more sense why like State of Decay 3 was announced for PS5 despite not being done so before, which is because they wanted to get rid of them. So why not make it a multi-platform game? Because that's what the next people would probably do with that, make the most of their money back as they can. So yeah, like Xbox is in a point where they definitely needed to make changes because they were too huge a company because they just spent over $70 billion acquiring two big publishers,
Mm-hmm.
and those publishers were in the middle of making other things that were not necessarily to what Xbox wanted or needed in terms of big sellers. Only Call of Duty could really do that because that's just Call of Duty. But Bethesda makes things when they make things. It's their whole brand is it takes them a while to make things, but they're usually pretty good on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
But they were in the middle of making new games for the new generation and kind of had to reload, and that happened at the worst time for Xbox. And I have a Fallout game or an Elder Scrolls game or any of that ready to go when they most needed it.
Mm.
It doesn't help that just the direction isn't there. Like under Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond, like obviously like the everything is an Xbox was a big thing that they harped on, and unfortunately with the changes that are being made, they couldn't do that anymore. And like that is all directive from Microsoft. Like whether it's Asha, whether it's Phil, whether it's whoever comes before or after them, at the end of the day, they report to Microsoft and what they say goes. And unfortunately, it's not always going to be a good or bad thing for everybody involved.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that I don't think Xbox has ever really had good leadership. That's probably been their problem is they've never had good leadership because even when things were going really well for Xbox 360, Peter Moore left a few years into that to get Don Matrick into power, but even then they rushed out the door to try to beat Sony to the punch and put out a really bad you know product that's constantly overheated and broke itself.
Mm.
So a lot of people had to keep returning Xboxes and all that kind of stuff. So you end up with that kind of being a huge problem. And then halfway through that generation, you could tell they ran out of the sales for what new games to do, so they fell back on Fable, Forza, Halo, and Gears.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when Phil Spencer was in charge of their first party going into the Xbox One, and that just did not go well. He took over and dealt with the problem of what games he had pushed to the forefront for what they should be making.
Mm.
You had the Master Chief Collection that was just a broken mess of a game. But Crackdown 3 wasn't very good at launch. There's a Recore that was kind of a broken mess at launch. Like, they just had a bad handful of years there that put them in this point of having to buy studios, try to make ends meet, and then they didn't make ends meet because they wouldn't be able to solve any of the problems of Xbox management were constantly causing. And that's kind of where Xbox is in right now, is reconciling with all of that by making more bad decisions, some that are necessary potentially, but also that are not going to fix the problem that management just doesn't know what to do with these platforms. At a certain point, there's nobody with a good vision as Asha's taking over, near the end of this Helix project, that who knows what changes are going to happen to that from what was being designed for this entire generation. And I bet it's not going to change their fortune at all, especially if it comes out at over $1,000 for a PC console hybrid thing. So yeah, no layoffs here are going to solve any problems. They just need all of their decisions to start working, and all of their decisions are not necessarily going to work. Maybe even any of them. So yeah, I think that is going to end up being where we ended, unless you guys have anything to add.
Nope.
All right, so yeah. Thank you to Brandon Danner for joining this week.
Always.
We'll be back next week with a new slate of news and things to talk about, as in spite of all the bad news, games still keep coming out, more so than we could ever hope to play. I believe the Konami baseball game's out this week. I'm going to grab that. And probably the Star Wars DLC for Car Wash Simulator, both coming out the same day, so that's going to be fun.
Yep.
But yeah, there's going to be a bunch of that stuff going on here.
Mm-hmm.
If you enjoy the show, feel free to let friends and family know they should check out the show, and select strangers who are also tired of Xbox being this ever-present nightmare machine.
Mm-hmm.
Bad decisions and people with too much money making bad decisions over there. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a good week ahead. We will see you all next time. Have a good one.
Bye.
See ya.